Welcome to C Programming Tutorials. This tutorial is part of a collection of C programming tutorials, a series of C programming tutorials. If you haven't watched any of those, I would recommend that you watch those, a lot of other tutorials as well. In this particular tutorial, we will be talking about strings, which are basically array of characters. So if you haven't watched the previous tutorials about arrays, I would recommend that you do so. And I would really appreciate if you basically become the fan of the Facebook page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def, or subscribe to YouTube channel Learnorama, and I will also really appreciate if you could basically give me some feedback by posting some comments in either on Facebook or on YouTube page, so that I know how I am doing, and I know that there is somebody out there who is benefiting from what I am trying to do here. Anyway, so let's get started. So today's tutorial, we are going to be learning about the concepts of strings. Okay, strings basically, by definition, they are actually a sequence of characters. Okay, for example, everywhere around us we use strings a lot. Okay, for example, name. Okay, name is a string. So Suhail, this is my name, and this is a string. So how the question is, how do we store these strings? So if you think about it, these are actually, this string is a collection of these characters, a sequence of these characters. Okay, so all of these are character types. So the best way to represent something which is the same, multiple of the same, like in our previous tutorial we learned how to store the ages of multiple, a lot of multiple kids, and it's, since all the ages are integers, so the best way to represent them is to basically create an array of integers and call it an age, and how many the students are there, you create that many elements. So suppose there were like 10 students, you create an array like this, age of 10. Okay, now in the same way, if I have to store this string, what I have to do is to basically create an array of characters data type. Here it was integer, so each one of those could be integer, like 9 years old, 10 years old, 3 years old, and so on to like 10 years old. Okay, and here this is a character, this is a character, this is a character. So what I should be doing is basically represent is defining character and say the name of the array, which would be name. You could call it whatever you want, and then in square brackets we basically write the number of elements that we want to store. Now in this particular example there are 6 characters, but everybody's name is different, so let's put something like a little bit longer so that it covers most of the names, most of the first names at least. So let's say 10. Okay, so if I represent this with this diagram, that how it will look like in memory conceptually, what it's going to do is, what it's saying is that allocate memory and call it by name, and then how many elements it will have enough elements, it will have 10 elements. Each element will be of data type character. So if this is one character, this is enough to store one character, then what we want is basically 10 of those. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, and as we learned before, this is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. These are the indices of these elements. Index range from 0 to 1 less than the total number of elements here. Okay, so this is how the string name can be conceptualized in memory. Okay, and in each one of those, since I can store one character, I could store S here, O here, H here, A here, I here, and L here. Okay, so this is how I store my name in that string name in here. Okay, what about the leftover spaces here? Okay, we don't know what characters are going to be in here. They are not blank. So remember, so let's look at how this gets represented. So when we were learning about binary number system, I told you that inside the memory there is only thing that you can store is numbers. Okay, memory is basically a sequence of bits. If you haven't watched that tutorial, I would recommend that you watch it. The title of the tutorial is binary number system. So a memory is a sequence of bytes. Okay, each byte is actually 8. Each byte is 8 bits. Each bit is actually either 0 or 1. So this is 1 byte, 8 bits. Okay, this is 1 byte, and 1 character can be stored in 1 byte. So I can write S in this whole byte. Okay, now how can I write S with only zeros and ones? So what they have done is basically for every character A, B, C, D, what they have done is they have defined some codes, okay, some numbers. Okay, the numbers range from 0 to 255, because as we learned in the binary number system tutorial, that basically in 8 bits you can write, maximum number that you can write is 255, and the minimum number that you can write is 0. So these numbers are from 0 to 255. Their name is ASCII, ASCII. So when you have to write S, what it does is it doesn't write S because it cannot write S. What it does is it writes the ASCII code of S. Whatever the ASCII code of S is, I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. So that number represents S. Similarly, O, H, A, I, L. Here there is something still written. It cannot be blank. It has to be either 0 or 1. So it is a combination of zeros and ones. Okay, something like that. Here, as long as you don't, unless you initialize it, there is some garbage sitting here. Okay, something is written here, and how do we stop it from, not being part of this string Suhail that we wrote here? Okay, how do we do that? Okay, so what we have to do is to basically write an end of a string character or null terminator, and it is a 0. You write a 0 here. You initialize, you end your string with 0 in this byte. Okay, in this case each character is 1 byte long, so these are actually 1 byte each of them. Okay, and here this is 1 byte, which is basically the same as this whole thing. Okay, this whole thing is the same as this small character here. Okay, you have to write in this, at the end of this string you have to write 0. So actually my name is, even though it has 6 characters, it needs 7 total characters to store. Okay, so that's a good practice. If you expect your names to be 10 bytes long or 10 characters long, you don't define this string as 10 characters. You define it for 11 characters. Why? Because you want to end that name which has 10 characters, the longest name which has 10 characters, you want to end it, create 11 elements here, and you end it with a 0. If it is smaller than 10 characters, which is in my case it is only 6 characters long, you write it on the 7th character. You write 0 on the 7th character. So I hope you guys understand how it's going on. So to represent this string, you need any string of n number of characters. You need an array of n plus 1 characters. Okay, and this defines a string, and this null terminator basically signifies the end of a string. So I hope this helps you understand the concept of string. If you like this tutorial, please rate it 5 stars, and don't forget to watch the continuation of this tutorial. We'll continue to talk about strings more in the next tutorial. Thank you so much.